So I'm going to talk to you guys about part two to the podcast of Justin Must Win. Um, the young man by the name of Justin, who I talked about in the first podcast. This is the second part two of it. Basically, it goes on to say Justin basically went to rehab. He had enough of living the life of addiction. He didn't want to go to jail anymore. He was scared actually to go to jail because he didn't fit in there. There was a lot of psychopaths in there, and they, like I said, they abused him. He was harmed, and he didn't tell anybody. He kept it to himself. He didn't want to look like a pussy or scared or weak because Justin wasn't a weak person. Justin was tough. When he was growing up, he was a boxer. He was in Taekwondo and Judo, so he knew how to fight, but he couldn't fight this off the big African American who weighed 300 pounds and was three times the size of Justin. Justin was only 100 pounds going into that jail. So basically, after being physically harmed for months on end, he went back into society and he grew to hate society. He went to rehab. He was there in rehab for 6 months, but he wasn't fit. He wasn't psychologically helped because he was basically forced off medications that he might have needed. He wasn't allowed to take medications in this rehab. This was a faith-based rehab where they believed meetings, AA and NA meetings were the answer. But that's not necessarily the case when you have mental health problems such as the mental health issues that Justin suffered from. Justin believed the government was trying to assassinate him from an early age, from false articles on YouTube videos of the world ending, conspiracy theories of the world ending. Justin would watch these all night, and it caused him to form schizoaffective disorder. Well, from an early age, I believe he had this disorder, and I believe he was undiagnosed from for a long time. He also had ADHD. That's why he used speed, because speed calmed him down. It did the opposite effect to him that it did to other people. It would calm him down and make him feel better. So, anyways, Justin basically went on with life. Went to detox many times, did drugs, continued to do drugs after he got out of rehab. It wasn't long. He was about 22, 23 years old. Um, he was already honorably discharged from the military. I'm not sure how much I spoke of the military, but he was in the military for a couple of years, fully trained soldier. Justin had a hard life. Basically, he was a hardened man in a young man's body, and he uh, he basically grew with nobody because his parents abandoned him at a young age because he was so hard to deal with because he was a hardcore individual. He would rob people, rob drug dealers, and feel no remorse about his actions. And he would essentially hurt people because he was hurt. Hurt people hurt people. That's the way it works. And Justin was a hurt person. Um, as he grew older, he essentially went to rehab and detox as many other times. And then COVID happened, coronavirus. And when that happened, he wasn't able to pay his rent anymore because rent went up, and because people were having a hard time paying their bills because jobs ran out. And Justin claimed his COVID money, but he spent it all on drugs, and he was selling drugs and using them. But it forced him to be homeless, forced him into homelessness, which forced him out of the province. And he was forced out of New Brunswick, where he went to a homeless shelter in Moncton, New Brunswick, for the first time. Justin was in the shelter for not very long before he got kicked out, because one of the rules was you can't do drugs there. And Justin obviously could not stop doing drugs. He was a homeless person on the streets, and he did drugs and he drank. And he was kicked out of the shelter. They put him in another shelter that was a wet shelter. He ended up getting thrown out of there because he couldn't stop fighting with people. So Justin had a rough time in Moncton. He was basically living in out of a tent in the winter time, and in the summertime he would stay in a tent and had a campsite set up near a shelter where he could go eat food. They would let him eat food outside. They would bring him food. But Justin had a rough go. He would fight often on the streets, protecting women and children, and women and elderly people from predators, people that like to pick on people and bully people. Justin would stick up for those types of individuals because Justin was bullied as a young man, and he did not allow other people to be bullied. Justin grew to basically hate society because he was on the run as well, because he had warrants in New Brunswick for old theft charges, driving under the influence, and basically reckless driving and reckless endangerment for driving. So Justin went to jail, ended up getting caught because his girlfriend at the time, named Tessa, called the police on him and had him put in jail. Justin served many months in jail over that, and then got released. Ended up going back out with Tessa, and she broke up with her boyfriend. It caused a big fight for Justin. Justin ended up having to fight on the streets again with many other guys who were paid to beat him with weapons because they couldn't beat him with their fists, so they used weapons like baseball bats and knives to attack Justin, but Justin managed to survive every one of the attacks. Tessa ended up getting in a place working for some old guy cleaning his apartment, and she would sneak Justin through the window at nighttime, Justin, so he didn't have to stay outside. And he was getting methadone every day in Moncton, and Tessa was staying in Riverview. So Justin would go back and forth from Riverview to Moncton on a bicycle, and he basically had a rough time doing that. He ended up getting kicked out of his methadone clinic because, or the methadone the pharmacy, because he couldn't stop stealing food because he was starving every day. He wasn't eating food. He was staying with Tessa, and she wasn't really feeding him. So Justin had a rough time trying to survive with eating food out of the dumpsters and picking from restaurants, scrap foods out of the dumpsters. Justin would go in people's garbages and collect bottles and just take them in for money, and try to supply his drug habit of crystal meth, and Tessa's as well. Tessa had a crystal meth drug problem. So Justin went on doing this for years until finally he ended up in the psychiatric unit in Moncton. He was very angry because the psychiatrist cut him off his benzos, or clonazepam, and Justin called the psychiatrist every name in the books, threatened him, said he was going to kill him on the street, and the psychiatrist diagnosed Justin as antisocial personality disorder, basically saying he was a sociopath. So Justin had a false diagnosis. He wasn't actually a sociopath. He was actually a good guy. He felt major amounts of empathy, and he was a great guy. And the psychiatrist basically ruined his life by calling him a sociopath. So Justin went on with his life, thinking he was a sociopath, believed the psychiatrist, and ended up in jail many other times. But he went to a rehab facility, and then the rehab facility actually helped him a little bit, and he moved in with his sister afterwards in Sussex, New Brunswick. And in Sussex, Justin ended up getting a job at Prestige Homes and building mini homes, crack filling, and doing drywall. And Justin enjoyed that very much. Justin worked hard, but he was also still doing crystal meth on the side without people knowing. Ended up getting kicked out of his sister's house and was living in and out of motels, bouncing in from one motel to the next until finally he had nowhere to go in town. So he ended up sleeping in his meth dealer's basement, which is a place that was dirty and there was rats, and it was just disgusting, a disgusting place. There was shit all over the floor, and there was dirty clothes full of piss and shit, and there was rats everywhere. Justin tried to survive, but he basically decided, I'm not going to do this anymore, and he said, I'm going to go on the run. And he went on the run because he had a court date coming up in March. And this was March was coming up, and he said, I'm going to go on the run. I'm going to go to Nova Scotia. So he went to Nova Scotia, bought an ounce of crystal meth, brought it with him to Nova Scotia, and was selling the crystal meth in Nova Scotia, Amherst, Nova Scotia. Everybody said the crystal meth was the best crystal meth they ever smoked because it was pure, because it came straight from source, which I can't really discuss, but it was basically pure crystal meth, and there wasn't cut with anything, so people enjoyed it, and Justin enjoyed selling it because he was making a lot of money off it. Anyways, he ran out of that crystal meth, and then eventually the police caught him and arrested him for warrants at large, warrants from the of New Brunswick for possession of stolen property over 5,000, theft of a motor vehicle, reckless and dangerous driving, because he got in a high-speed chase in New Brunswick, got away from the police, and Justin was caught for that, and he ended up going to jail for 8 months for that charge. And when he got out of jail, he was released, and he went back to Sussex, New Brunswick, and he was staying on the streets for a couple weeks, and he was doing crystal meth again. Justin was doing crystal meth, and then finally a buddy of his came up to him and said, "Hey, Justin, I got a job for you." So Justin said, "What's the job?" He said, "Well, I know a guy. He's a sex offender. The town hates him. He has his own business, and he has a safe in his business with $10,000. And if you help me get it, I'll give you half the money." Justin said, "I'm in." Knowing that the guy was a sex offender, Justin believed everything his buddy told him, and his buddy's name was Malcolm, and Malcolm said, "I give you my word, this is true. The guy's a bad guy, and nobody wants him. Nobody likes him in this town. Everybody wants him out of here. So we got to do this tonight." So Justin helped him break into the business. Malcolm, there was no safe, there was no money. Malcolm Justin told Malcolm, I'm leaving, there's nothing here. Malcolm said, "Here's the car keys, there's cars outside, take one of the vehicles." Justin went outside, none of the vehicles worked. So Justin took the keys, threw them in the ditch, and then went to his buddy's house. When he arrived at his buddy's house, he told Malcolm he was leaving, and then he went to his buddy's house. He went to his buddy Kyle's house. When he got to Kyle's house, he told Kyle, and Kyle's buddy Jesse was there, which was also a buddy of Justin's. Justin told Kyle and Jesse what happened, about how he broke into his buddy's business. Jesse spoke up and said, "Justin, you know that business is owned by the bikers, eh?" And Justin said, "Well, no, it's not. The guy's a sex offender." Malcolm told me he was a sex offender, and Jesse said, "Man, that guy's a biker. My word, he's a biker." Justin said, "Well, don't say anything about it, man. Like, what the hell?" He said, Justin didn't know. Justin had no idea that he was a biker. So he was kind of upset with Malcolm. And anyways, a couple weeks later go by, and then Jesse comes up to Justin and said, the boys want the keys back. Where are the keys?" Justin said, "They're in the ditch. I'll go get them." So Justin bikes out of town to get the keys. They're in a ditch out of town outside of Sussex, and he passes a truck. He notices the truck, and he says that truck, and he says to himself, "That truck was in that goddamn driveway of that business. I remember it." And he passes the truck on his bicycle, and about 12 to 15 seconds later, boom, he got smoked from behind, and then by the truck. And then Justin flew off the bike. The bike was completely demolished, and Justin flew over a ditch into somebody's front lawn. And Justin got up off the ground. He shook it off and tried to shake it off, but he was kind of half knocked out. And he turned around, and so this guy comes up with glasses on, and a guy about the same age as Justin says, "You're coming with me, you little punk." And he points a gun at Justin's head. It was a shotgun, double barrel shotgun. Justin said, "Okay, I'm coming. Don't worry, don't shoot me." And the guy said, get the fuck up and come on. So Justin follows the guy. Then he tries to make a run for it, and the guy catches up, kicks his leg out. Justin falls down, and he says, get the fuck up or I'm blowing your head off. So Justin says, all right, I'm going. I'm sorry. He said, man, Justin says, man, my friend Malcolm told me that you were a sex offender. I didn't know. Okay, I didn't know who you were. I wouldn't have done this if I didn't think you were a sex offender, bad person. I'm sorry that this happened. And the guy took Justin back to the business, and he said, "We already got the fucking keys, you dummy. Someone already brought them to us." And Justin said, "Well, why'd you bring me here?" And he said, "Because we're turning you into fish bait, you fucking punk." And he said, Justin said, "Oh my God, please don't." Justin starts crying, and the guy said, "Get in this room and sit down." And Justin sits down in a chair, and then he said, "Put your hands together." And Justin puts his hand together. They zip tie Justin's hands, and they zip tie Justin's feet. Justin says, "Please, man, don't do this. I have a sister and a mom and a dad. They're gonna wonder what happened to me." But he says, "Well, you shouldn't have broken into my business. You fucked up. You fucked with the wrong people. I'm gonna turn you into fish bait." Justin says, "Please, man." Justin's crying at this point. Then the guy leaves the room, and Justin hears the guy talking to an older gentleman, which happened to be the man's father. And the man's father said, "I'm calling the police, so we can have this guy, this punk, put in jail. We're not killing him." And the young fellow said, the younger guy that's Justin's age said, "No, we're killing him. The boys want us to kill him." So Justin had a panic attack almost, and then his adrenaline just started pumping, and Justin just snapped his wrist and broke out of the zip ties, and then he broke the zip ties off his feet, got up and snuck out the side door of the business and started running. Justin gets about a kilometer away to a business close by, and he says, "Help, help, there's people that are trying to kill me." And Buddy comes out, the Buddy with the glasses that's Justin's age comes running by and says, "Hey, grab that guy. He's a punk that broke into my business and and destroyed everything." Justin said, "Destroyed everything? I didn't destroy anything, man. My word, I opened the door. That's all I did. Malcolm was the one that destroyed everything." And Buddy said, "Who's Malcolm?" Justin said, "I don't know his last name. He's a friend of mine. I can tell you where he lives because he told me that you were a sex offender." But the guy wanted to know why Justin and Malcolm broke into the business. Justin didn't really know why Malcolm wanted to do it. Justin told the guy that Malcolm told him that he was a sex offender and there was $10,000 cash and the town hated the guy. The guy didn't believe Justin, but the boys that were there kind of believed what Justin was saying because Justin was crying, and you could tell he wasn't lying about what he was saying, and he actually wasn't lying. He was telling the truth. So the boys bring Justin back to the business where they had him zip tied, and about 5 seconds later, the old man comes out, the man's father, the young fellow's father, the guy that with the glasses that tied Justin up, zip tied Justin up. He said the police are on their way. They're arresting him for a break and enter. And the young fellow said, "What the fuck? Why would you do that, Dad? Now you're gonna have me screwed. He shouldn't have called the cops, got them involved. We were supposed to deal with this our way." And the old man, the father said, "Well, I thought he was going to escape and come back and do something. They did enough damage. There's $10,000 worth of damage done. I want him put in jail." Justin said, "Well, I'm going to go to jail for a long time because of this." And the young fellow said, "Well, you better not say anything to anybody because I know where your sister lives and your nephew." Justin said, "I'm not going to say a word, I promise." And Justin was serious. He never said a word. The police ended up showing up and they arrested Justin for break and enter, and Justin went to jail for 10 months. Again, just a couple of weeks after he got out, he went back. And he never said a word about the guy's name or anything about what happened. He just kept his mouth shut and did his time. Justin was in jail and was on a unit, a range, and someone came in his cell one day and said, "Read this guy's paperwork. Read what he did." So Justin reads the paperwork and it says, The guy tortured a cat, pulled its eyeballs out, and hung it by its neck until it died. And the cops arrived, seeing him mutilating the cat. So Justin went down and said, "Okay, you're gonna have to get this guy to come in my cell because I need to talk to him." So they get the guy to come in Justin's cell. The guy's name is Chris. And Chris comes into the cell and Justin says, "Hey Chris, remember that cat? Your cat that you loved so much?" And Chris said, "Yeah, why?" Justin said, "Because this." Bang! Justin punches him, drops him on the ground, starts hitting him, and can't stop. Justin hits him with a left or right, a left or right, left, right. Broke his face. His cheekbone was broken, his earlobe or eardrum was shattered or blown, whatever popped. His eye socket was his eye was hanging out of its socket. His jaw was broken and his face was a complete mess. He was knocked out unconscious on the floor. The guards had to come in and take him out on a stretcher. Then Justin started a big riot because he was pissed off and sick and tired of the guards putting sick sex offenders and predators on the unit with the boys. So Justin locked the guards out off the unit and started a big riot. This riot lasted 4 hours. The guards couldn't get on the unit, and Justin was in charge of it all. He wouldn't. He had the boys all pumped up, and he amped up, and he was throwing stuff at the bubble, which is the where the guards look in, and the guards had the police there. They read the riot act, and this was a big thing that happened in that jail. And then about 4 hours later, they used a hydraulic pump to open the door because Justin had a table wedged in between the door, or in front of the door, wedged in between the bars of the railing, and they couldn't open the door, so they had to use a hydraulic pump to break the door, or break the table in half, and then open the door, and then use a flash grenade, and then shoot the boys with pepper balls. Justin was already covered in pepper spray. He wasn't scared. He was ready for war. And in the end, Justin got emergency transferred to the Special Handling Unit in Shediac, New Brunswick, which is the Southeast Regional Correctional Center. So he was transferred from St. John Correctional Center to the Southeast Regional Correctional Center to the Special Handling Unit, the SHU. Justin was in the SHU for basically the whole time he was in there, so 8 months he was in the SHU, and then he got released. And when he got released, he was released back to St. John to the homeless shelter. And actually, I'm going to end it here for now, and then the number 3 is going to come out after I get a couple more subscribers. I hope everybody enjoyed this so far, and it gets a lot more interesting after this. There's some attacks on Justin, and he almost dies, and yeah, so thank you for listening.